Meditation has been shown to reduce stress, to improve focus, and create the right conditions for healthy, restful sleep. Headspace is guided meditation for everybody, no matter who you are or what you do. Whether you're just starting meditating or whether you've been doing it for years, we can help you to train your mind for a healthier, happier life. To get started, visit headspace.com or download our app. Once you're all signed up, choose a topic you'd like to focus on. Let's see, sleep? Or maybe self-esteem? And we'll suggest the right exercises for you to try. If you enjoy them and want to learn more, then it's time to subscribe. When you do, you'll get access to hundreds of guided meditations from the Headspace library. There are bite-sized mini meditations for when you're short on time. Exercises to add mindfulness to everyday tasks, like commuting or running. And packs to help you with everything from relationships to sport or even sleep. With dozens of packs to choose from, Headspace is your personal meditation guide to just about everything. One of the most challenging parts of meditation is what's sometimes called the dark side of the mind. These are the thoughts and fantasies that we'd rather didn't appear in the mind. Whether they're exciting, violent, vengeful, or maybe even sadistic in nature. We might think we shouldn't be experiencing them. But these thoughts are perfectly natural, and there's obviously no need to act on them. But why do they seem to appear more often once we begin to meditate? Well, typically, we go through our day with quite a heavy filter on the mind, blocking out these thoughts that we don't like, either habitually or intentionally. When we block them out habitually, we're unaware that it's even taking place. We're just so caught up in our day-to-day thinking. But by meditating, we're creating more space in the mind. So it's not that there are more of these thoughts, we just see them more clearly. But when we're blocking them out intentionally, we already see the thoughts clearly, but we're resisting them, perhaps fearful of what they say about us as a person. But what meditation shows us is that we're not our thoughts. So there's no need to judge them, to identify with them. We see that they don't make us a mean person, a terrible person, a twisted person. And it's through this process that we discover peace of mind, allowing thoughts to come and go, at ease with the mind, exactly as it is. We're always taught the more effort we put in, the more we'll get out of life. But of course this isn't always true. Take falling asleep, for example. You can prepare in the right way, put yourself in the right position, and get yourself comfortable. But after that, well, you can't force it to happen, right? In fact, it works exactly the other way around. The harder you try, the less sleepy you become. It's only when we stop trying that we finally let go and drift off. And before we know it, we're waking up the next morning feeling refreshed, relaxed, after a good night's sleep. And it's a very similar story when we're training the mind. I think a nice metaphor for this is the idea of taming a wild horse. If you look at how a wild horse is tamed, rather than pinning it down in one place, the horse is led out on a very long rope and put in a big open spacious field. The horse runs around feeling like it's got all the space in the world. But very slowly the rope's pulled in and the horse adjusts to this feeling until it comes to a natural place of rest. And we're looking to do just the same thing with the mind in meditation. Not trying to pin it down in one place, but bringing it to a natural place of rest. So let go of any idea of needing to achieve something or get somewhere, and instead enjoy the opportunity to sit back, relax, and be present in the world. Imagine you're walking down a street. It's a street you know well, maybe one you walk down every single day. But you're so caught up in your own thinking, wondering what you're going to have for lunch, thinking back to a conversation you had earlier, that you end up falling down a hole. Now at the bottom of this hole, you find yourself thinking, how did I end up here? Worse yet, the next day, you do the exact same thing. And then again, the next day. It may not sound like an especially cheerful idea, but as an analogy for the mind, it's really helpful. Because so often, we follow the same habits of mind, over and over again. And so we find ourselves in an emotional hole, maybe even a place that's really painful. But imagine if you started just noticing, being more aware of your surroundings. Sure, maybe next time you'd realise a little too late and you'd still end up in the hole again. But maybe the time after that, you'd notice the hole and choose to walk around it instead. This is what it means to train the mind. This is what it means to have Headspace. Have you ever wondered why we teach our kids about looking after the body, but we don't really teach them how to look after the mind? Teaching them about meditation at an early age would set them up for life. But we all know that sitting quietly isn't that easy. It's not easy for us as grown-ups, so think how hard it is for kids. They'd much rather be out and about, having fun, getting dirty, than sitting still with their eyes closed for 10 minutes. So here at Headspace, we've created some activities and meditations, especially for them, with themes like calm, kindness, and even bedtime. We created these sessions for children and parents to enjoy together. Each activity is different depending on how old your child is. There are exercises designed for toddlers, preteens, and every age in between. This really is the best of both worlds. Quality time with your child while teaching them a valuable skill for life. And hey, who knows? Maybe you'll even get a little extra headspace for yourself. It's quite normal when we start to meditate for the mind to jump around all over the place. We might find it tends to chase after all the little things, to be constantly moving about, from the present to the past to the future, in fact to rarely be still at all. Fortunately, the mind can be tamed, not by forcing it to stop or trying to make it sit still. We don't want to trap it. That would just stir it up and create even more movement. But by training the mind, having an awareness of when our attention has wandered off, and gently bringing it back with a kind and friendly hand. In this way, the mind slowly becomes a little less restless. It also becomes more comfortable with this idea of sitting still. In fact, it might even come to enjoy it. This analogy for the mind has been around for thousands of years. Thankfully, so has the knowledge that, with time and practice, we can learn to train this monkey. Think of the mind as a still pool of water. Each thought is like a raindrop. It creates a ripple on the surface. If it starts raining very hard or it's perhaps a little windy, then the pool might become so cloudy that we can't see what's on the bottom. But the potential to return to our still pool of water is still there. In fact, by training the mind, the ripples naturally begin to slow. And as the surface of the pool becomes still, it gets easier to see what's beneath the surface. Sometimes we might like what we see, at other times, well, maybe not so much. Now, occasionally finding things we don't like may sound off-putting, but it's really important because it's part of letting go of those things. Accepting what's in our mind also helps us to be less critical of ourselves. It can even help us to be less critical of others. So we start to feel more content in life, to experience more harmonious relationships, and to be more at ease with the world around us. When we're training in meditation, it's important that our good intentions extend beyond the simple act of closing our eyes. In fact, there's a really funny old story about a very impatient yogi meditating in his cave. Wondering what the yogi was up to, a traveller passing by asked him, excuse me, do you mind if I stop in? The yogi, being very disciplined, kept his eyes shut and continued without saying a word. Thinking the yogi must be a little hard of hearing, the traveller said a little louder, excuse me, do you mind if I come in? Eventually the yogi opened his eyes and said, can't you see? I'm trying to meditate. Apologising, the woman went on her way. But she hadn't got very far before she started to think, wonder what kind of meditation he's doing. So she returned to find the yogi sitting in quiet contemplation. Excuse me, she asked, what sort of meditation is this? The yogi, letting out a big sigh, said, I'm meditating on patience. The woman said, oh, okay, interesting, thanks, and left once again. So the yogi returned to his meditation. As the woman continued her journey, she found herself thinking, wow, patience. I could really do with some of that. I wonder if I should ask him for some instruction. So once more she went back to the yogi's cave. But so infuriated by all the interruptions, this time the yogi jumped up and screaming and shouting chased the traveller out of the cave. Clearly, training the mind is about much more than sitting still with our eyes closed. It's about bringing a gentle and flexible approach to our practice, and as a consequence, into the world around us. The conditions may not always be easy, but the journey's about embracing them, making these so-called obstacles part of our practice. The practice of resting the mind in awareness, at ease with ourselves and at ease with the world around us. Take a moment to imagine a bright blue sky stretching off into the distance. Feels pretty good, right? This is a perfect metaphor for the mind, a blank canvas on which thoughts, feelings, and experiences appear. Okay, so maybe there are just a few clouds, but they tend not to bother us or distract us too much, especially if they're the cute little fluffy variety. This is how the mind appears when it's calm, bright, serene, and happy. But life isn't always easy. Sometimes there are a lot more clouds in the sky. Sometimes it might be the dark and stormy variety. Occasionally, we might even begin to wonder if a hurricane's on the way. It gets to the point that it's hard to think of anything else. In fact, sometimes we get so obsessed by the clouds that we forget about the blue sky altogether. But it's still there. Every time you're in a plane and you fly through the clouds, there it is, right? Without fail, blue sky. It's easy to forget that what we're looking for is already here. And that's why we need reminding. When did you last take the time to do nothing? And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. These days we rarely give our minds a chance to rest. And as a result, we often feel stressed, overwhelmed by emotions, lost in thought almost half of our waking hours. And everybody just assumes, well, that's life. But it doesn't have to be this way. Meditation shows us how to train the mind to be comfortable at rest. It takes a little practice. We're so used to busyness, but calm, that's new. But when we cultivate clarity like this, we might find we have space for more contentment, more compassion in our lives. And don't worry, you don't have to listen to recorded whale sounds. In fact, if you've got a few minutes and the Headspace app, you can learn to meditate right now. One of the things you'll notice about learning meditation is that there's a lot of repetition. In many ways, it's the same as learning any new skill. If we want to refine things, the only way to do it is by repeating it over and over again. Of course, after a little while, we might not be quite so dependent on the instruction, but it's still there if we need it. It gives us a framework to refer to as we continue learning through direct experience. So as you move through these daily meditations, sure, there are some core elements that are ever present, that will become very familiar, but every single day is different. Because even if you're doing the same technique today that you did yesterday, the mind is different, and therefore the experience is different. So as much as possible, approach each day lightly, as though it's the very first time you've witnessed the mind. If you can maintain this sense of playfulness and curiosity, then there'll always be something new to learn. Sometimes, when we're meditating and we realize the mind's wandered off, we might not know how to react. Noting gives us some very clear direction, perhaps a greater sense of clarity and confidence. In that moment, we pause and identify the nature of distraction. Oh yeah, thinking, or oh, feeling. Having noted, there's a sense of having dealt with it. This makes it easier to let go of the distraction and gently return to the object of focus. And when it happens again, which it will, we simply apply the same approach, gently noting the nature of the distraction. Now, when we begin noting, the temptation is to try and catch every single thought and feeling, but that quickly becomes tiring. We only need note the distraction when we realize that we've been lost in thought, and even then, it's a very gentle acknowledgement. Imagine it a little less like whack-a-mole and a little more like a feather, softly being placed on a fine crystal glass. So noting is when we recognize the mind has wandered. We acknowledge it, Gently note the nature of distraction, let it go, and then effortlessly return to the object of focus. Have you ever wondered why, when you chase after happiness, it seems so elusive? I think most of us do it, most of the time. There's an idea that happiness exists somewhere else. Not in this moment, maybe in another place, or it's with another person, just doing something different. When we chase after happiness as a movement, it's away from the present moment, to another place, to some time other than now. And because we move away from the present moment, ironically, we move further away from happiness. Because when you think about it, happiness can only exist in this moment, right here, right now. Now, the interesting thing is that when we focus less on chasing our own happiness, and instead focus more on the happiness of others, we immediately find ourselves in the present moment. So not only are we benefiting others by having a more open, empathetic mind, but we're also benefiting ourselves by being more present and experiencing more happiness. So the quickest way, the surest way of experiencing more happiness in our lives is to focus more on the happiness of others. So sitting comfortably, just taking a big deep breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. As you breathe in, noticing how the body expands. As you breathe out, just watching the body soften as you gently close the eyes. And rather than the mind leading the breath, allow the breath to lead the mind. Notice the sensation of the breath. Notice it where you feel it in the body. If you need to, you can just gently place your hand on the stomach. And just following that rising and falling sensation. Nothing else to do. Allowing thoughts to come and go. And when you're ready, just gently opening the eyes again.
So just lying down, we're going to focus the attention on the different parts of the body, watching as they switch off for the night, starting down at the feet, muscles in the toes and the arches switching off, the legs, any tension just dissolving as the calves and thighs power down, the muscles in the lower back and the stomach switching off. Now the chest and upper back switching off. The shoulders, the arms, the hands and fingers just switching off. The face, the eyes, the mouth, any tension just melting away as the muscles switch off, shut down, at rest for the night.
Hi, and welcome to Headspace. So lying down somewhere comfortable where you're not going to be disturbed. Just take a nice big deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you exhale, just feeling the weight of the body sinking down into the bed. Letting go of any thoughts. And just feeling that contact between the body and the surface beneath you. The heels, the backs of the legs, the lower back, the upper back, the arms, the hands, the fingers, the neck, and the back of the head. And just allowing the mind to drift off in its own time. So sitting comfortably, just beginning with a nice big deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. So eyes open, a soft focus. As you breathe out, you can allow the breath to return to its natural rhythm. But just keep the eyes open for a moment. Just focusing in on one particular object within your field of vision. Not staring at it too intently, still aware of the space around you. But just gently focusing on that one object. And then just slowly zooming back out again as you blink a few times with the eyes. Training the mind is often quite different to how people imagine it to be. Maybe they have an idea it's about stopping thoughts or eliminating feelings, but the reality is a bit different. An easy way to think of it is to imagine yourself sitting on the side of a busy road, the passing cars representing the thoughts and the feelings. All you have to do is to sit there and watch the cars. Sounds easy, right? But what usually happens is that we feel a bit unsettled by the movement of the traffic. So we run out into the road and try and stop the cars, or maybe even chase after a few, forgetting that the idea was to just sit here. And of course, all of this running around only adds to the feeling of restlessness in the mind. So training the mind is about changing our relationship with the passing thoughts and feelings, learning how to view them with a little more perspective. And when we do this, we naturally find a place of calm. Will we sometimes forget the idea of the exercise and become distracted? Of course we will. But as soon as we remember, here we are, back on the side of the road again, just watching the traffic go by, perfectly at ease in both body and mind. Hi, and welcome to Headspace. So no matter what's going on in your life right now, no matter how many thoughts are racing around your mind, no matter how the body's feeling, just take a moment to sit down and take a big deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you breathe in, a sense of taking in fresh air, the lungs expanding. As you breathe out, a sense of letting go of any stress in the body, in the mind, just feeling the muscles soften and relax. And close your eyes if you'd like to. One more, breathing deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just take a moment to pause. Allow the thoughts to come and go. And then just gently opening the eyes again.